Hey guys, Jake Carlson here, host of the Modern Leadership Podcast. Are you ready to focus on amplifying your leadership superpowers? Let's go! Good morning, my friends and fellow elite achievers. Welcome to the Modern Leadership Podcast, where weekly we deep dive with entrepreneurs, authors, and leaders to learn about a little bit about their expertise. So this week, I want to talk about a very important topic: building your referral network. Now, I work with a lot of business owners building and growing their firms past the $1 million level, and universally, I am asked about marketing. Specifically, how can I get more people in the door? And my immediate response: the number one way to attract new business, the way with the best return on investment of time and money, is referrals. So let me introduce you to today's guest expert, the Referral Diva, Ms. Virginia Muzquiz. Virginia is the owner and chief connection officer at Master Connectors. With more than 30 years experience teaching six-figure businesses and solopreneurs to build sustainable and profitable companies, she believes that learning how to create and leverage social capital is crucial in business building. So Virginia, it is great to have you with us today. How are you?
I'm awesome, Jake. Thanks for inviting me on today to share about this topic that I am super passionate about.
Well, and passion is something that you could hear in the voice. And just in the couple of minutes that you and I have been chatting before we hit record, it's clear that you're passionate about this concept of connecting people, of being a referral network. And I want to jump into that. But before we do, what did we miss by way of introduction? Who is Virginia?
The short story is I'm the daughter of a successful entrepreneur. My dad was just amazing, built a multi-million-dollar business from the ground up with pretty much nothing but sweat when he started. His business supported about 20 families in our small town of Flemington, New Jersey, where I grew up. And he did right by his people. He did the health insurance thing before that was even a thing. He's just a really good business owner. And the tragedy of it all was that in building a business, he really kind of left the family to fend for ourselves. So he's kind of home for breakfast, kind of home for dinner. And we did a couple of vacations and stuff. But when I got to be about 12, I really felt like my dad had chosen the business over us, and was pretty resentful growing up about that, and vowed I would never do that to my family. Flash forward, I've got a high school daughter who's a trumpet prodigy, and she's amazing. And she's a big Chris Bodie fan. Like, what 13-year-old is like, Chris Bodie's my hero, And then one day she just blew it off, packed up her trumpet and quit playing. And I said, hey, what's up? What's up with that? And she was like, what do you care? You don't go to the concerts.
Oh, ouch.
Like flipping ouch. And I won't go into a lot of details, but it did get worse from there, a lot worse from there. I'm the mother of a prodigal child who has come home, and it really all, right in that time span was when I was like, man, I got to find a better way. I got to find a way to be able to be a mom to this child who's in pain, and to be able to be there for my other older daughter, and to be a good wife to my husband. And, I just needed to find a better way. And I had been a member of BNI for a while, Business Network International, and the good friends with the people who owned it, and they offered me this opportunity to open a coaching company, coaching people how to do what I had just gotten done doing, which was growing a No Child Left Behind division at a local tutoring company from $0 to $2.5 million in annual revenue in a short span of 5 years. So then that started the coaching career, and it put me back in balance. It put me in a place where I can put my faith first, my spirituality, myself, really pour into my own cup. Then I can really pour out to my family and choose them first. And then I can pour into my business. And by using the concept of creating community instead of customers, and really creating something that goes beyond raving fans, man. It's really about having people that just adore you, and they're about what you're about, and they just love sharing you. So I'm just building a bunch of companies right now, and really enjoying my time and my balance back, and having everything back in line. It was a pretty tough 7 years, but it resulted in what is today. So I'm down with it. It's pretty cool.
Well, and I got to ask you though, because prior to the recording here, we were talking about these 3 businesses that you're running. And then we go through this story and this evolution that you've gone through. And here you are running a number of companies. How are you keeping that balance? And I understand that we all define balance differently, but for you, how are you keeping the balance and still able to do so much?
Well, first of all, you got to grow a team. So let's just go there, right? Like the first thing, you can't do it by yourself. So it's really, again, it's about building communities and empowering communities to do great things. And I'm, if you go through your little quiz, which was totally awesome. I love that quiz. I'm somebody who's got a big vision. I've got lots of strategies, and I'll be honest, I don't implement much really. I mean, I have implementers who love implementing, who are crazy about implementing, who love grabbing the plan and saying like, I want to implement this little part. Right. So I think one is I do have a team of people, ever growing, always looking to bring people on board to share in the mission of helping small business succeed by referral. And it's what we do. And I'll tell you what, there is no such thing as balance, really, Jake. You make decisions about how you're going to spend your 168 hours or however many 86,400 seconds or, whatever that pool is, however you want to break it down. You just make decisions. And I'll give you an example. I had scheduled a 3-day workshop for the end of June. And then my husband's niece, our niece, is going to be 15 and we're Mexican. And so there's this quinceañera thing and I have a grandbaby and he's going to get baptized. And the family decided to come in a week early. And that's when I'm doing the 3-day workshop. So guess what I did? I called everybody and I said, well, we're not doing it that weekend. You want to do it this weekend or another weekend? Because my family's in town. And everybody's like, yeah, that's totally cool because it's completely congruent with my message.
And I think that's such an important thing that you're bringing up here. And that is people will respond when you're authentic, when you're really real true to who you are. People will respond and be accommodating and work with you. We talk a lot on this podcast about having people run, whether they run to you or run from you. And when you find your ideal true tribe, those people who run to you, they understand when you say, hey, look, I might have messed up here. I have something that's very important to do. And therefore, we're going to move this event. And they're okay with it. They're going to work it out in their lives. They understand. And I think as business owners, this is really important. You talked about the 168 hours, and we all have the ability to distribute our 168 any way that we choose. But once you make that decision, you have to own that decision. You're in charge of that decision. You can't let your clients, your customers, you can't let anybody else dictate to you how you're going to use your 168. You need to choose for yourself. And I think once you do that, opportunities abound. And so I appreciate that backstory. I want to get into this conversation about networking, specifically about referrals. And how did you become the Referral Diva?
Do you want to know how I got the moniker or you want to know how I got the skill set?
Let's talk about both. We're all in this podcast.
Well, the moniker came, it was pretty funny because it was, back when I started my coaching practice, which was like, 7 or 8 years ago, and Twitter had just become a thing, and I was at a friend's marketing agency, and they were like, oh, you got to get on Twitter, you need a Twitter handle, and I was like, I don't Twitter, and I don't do Facebook, and, I'm barely on LinkedIn, and that social media thing is stupid, and I'm not going to do it, and so I was talking with one of their marketing strategists about this social media positioning thing that I didn't want to do in the first place, but it sort of had to be done. And so my friend Brandon walks through the office and he goes, "Oh my God, you're such a diva." And Tim, my rep, goes, "That's it, at the Referral Diva, ta-da! You're on Twitter."
And of course, social media has since taken off, and so it's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah, so that's how I got the moniker, and it fits really. So I unfortunately I do at times show up a little bit in the negative connotation, like where's my Evian and my orange M&Ms, So I can show up like that, but more than that, the dictionary definition is a woman of extraordinary talent, and I do aspire to that. I do aspire to live all the talent that God has given me. I suck at a whole lot of things, but the stuff that he's given me to be good at, I'm really pretty good at. And I think it's my obligation to just be as good as I can be at that.
And can we make that a recommendation to our listeners that, Look, you have skill sets. Use your skills. Don't dwell on what you're not good at. There's plenty of people that are good at what you're not good at, and there's plenty of need for the skills that you're good at. So embrace them. and go after them.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It was interesting. You were talking about people like running to you and running from you.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Dude, get them to run with you in a pack, right? Like you get your community to run with you and then this whole thing works.
Well, and then you have this opportunity to draft and learn and grow with each other. I mean, the team can go faster than any one individual can. If you're a Tour de France watcher, which I'm not, but the idea is this team races together, and together they can go faster than any one individual. So if you got your team running with you, there's all sorts of advantages for you.
Yeah, John Maxwell says that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, get a team. Right? Bring a team. So I think that's a really big part of it. But as for the referral thing, it is about community and it is about teamwork. And it's about really pulling together people who think what you think, believe what you believe, and are on mission with you. So I'm all about Simon Sinek, the start with why, that whole notion. And I really am about ending global poverty through entrepreneurship. That's my gig. So everything I do is centered around understanding that the entrepreneur can do things that others cannot. And starting with they can build community and they can care. And so when you're building community and you're caring, you start thinking of yourself less as somebody who has to sell a bunch of stuff than someone who connects people to the people they need to know for the purpose of making life better. When I'm out networking, I'm not running around trying to get people to enroll in my programs. Other people get people to enroll in my programs. I don't need to do that for myself. My team, my community does that for me. And I, in turn, am working with my community to make sure they're connected to the success that they need. And I can be on the lookout for that. And interestingly enough, the statistics have shown that when you allow others to build your business for you, when you train them right and you reward them properly, and they do it because they want to, not because you're paying them, just because they believe what you believe and they love what you're about, and you've helped them so much that they just want to return the favor, you're 22 times more likely to get a client than if you direct prospect it on your own.
Well, and this goes back to exactly what we were saying, that you have your talents and your skills, the things that you're good at. And when you're operating in the space that you can really own, well, then you can grow your business by hiring people that can operate at their highest and best level in the areas that you are weakest at, or areas that, frankly, are not the best use of your time as the business owner and the leader of the tribe.
Right. I mean, the bottom line really is what you just said. It's be the leader of the tribe. And I love John Maxwell. Another John Maxwellism, a leader without followers is a guy taking a walk.
And how many people think that they're leaders and they're out there on a walk right now? I mean, they think they're leaders and nobody's following because they're either not acting authentically, or they're acting as a jerk, or their vision is off, where the people can't get behind it. The people are running from them, not with or to them.
Yeah. And if your vision is cloudy, if your marketing message is cloudy, if you don't know who you serve, if you don't know what you do, if you haven't created your expert messaging, like what's the one thing I can do that no one else in my space can do that people really want? And then I'm going to be that and only that all day long. And I'm going to be congruent to it. And then really understanding the notion of who is your team. And this is where I think, Jake, people miss the mark on networking. Okay, first of all, they don't have a plan. Then they're going to sell stuff, and nobody goes to a networking event to buy stuff. They go to sell stuff, right? Well, if you're smart, you don't go to do either one of those things. You go to find people to introduce to other people.
Well, it goes back to Zig Ziglar, who says you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. If your true intention is to serve, the opportunity is going to come back your way in spades.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And then the other message, like once you kind of get that together, I think the next big sort of cluster for people is they are giving, they're doing I want to give first because that's really the good thing and I'm going to help other people, but they're helping the wrong people the wrong way at the wrong time. And they're not really helping people that can be of value to them to give value first. Right. So that's, I was just at a conference with Dr. Ivan Meisner, and he gave a whole speech about networking up and how important it is to have something to offer other people, particularly people that are in a position to assist you, to help you, to raise you up, to bring connections to you, to add value to you, to give you more prestige, to give you more influence, right? You've got to be able to network up. And the key to that is to have something to offer. Podcasting is awesome for that. And you know it, like, hey, you should be on, would you like to be on my podcast? I'd love to promote you to my audience. Well, who doesn't, I mean, you could bump into Sir Richard Branson and he'd be like, sure, I'd love that, right? Like,
absolutely.
Super easy. But even just having good book recommendations, just being somebody that has something to offer and knowing what you're offering everywhere you go, and then really understanding who you're talking to. So some people don't want to give you referrals. My mother will never give me a referral. I've got people in my network who will tell me about good books or pick me up from the airport, but they're never going to find me a client. And expecting that from them is just a recipe for a failed relationship. And then even inside the group of people that we have, we think, oh, look, that's a business attorney, so he should have referrals for me because he does business with business owners. Well, maybe not. I don't know who's in his network. I don't know if he thinks the way I think or believes like I believe or is on mission with me. And it isn't until you find those people that are on mission for you that you can turn them into advocates, ambassadors, and affiliates for your brand.
And so the way to do this then is to expand your network, not with the intention on making every single person in your network a referral source, but expanding your network, because if you have 10% of your friends or 10% of your connections are referral sources, well, if you want 10 referral sources, let's get you 100 connections. It's the idea of surround yourself with as many good people as you can. Some of them are going to refer to you. Some of them you're going to refer to, but that's not the intention. Is creating relationships, creating connections, not referrals.
To a point, yes. I mean, you have to start with that, right? But then if you're going to really get like a predictable revenue stream by referral, you have to have a plan for that. You have to have a way to move people through and teach them to be appointment setters for you, teach them to be connectors for you, because you'd be surprised the stuff people tell other people I do. Like, I've got one connection in my network that for whatever reason I cannot get it, no matter how much I train this person out of it. They're like, oh, I want to introduce you to Joe. Go, great. Well, what's up with Joe? Oh, he's looking for a job. So I figured you would know people. I'm like, I work with solopreneurs and really like solo small business owners, like mostly small business owners. If they're going to get a team, they're doing the 1099 thing. They haven't really brought on a bunch of employees quite yet.
It's not a good fit.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you can introduce them to me, but I can't help them because I don't even swim in that ocean. And you would be way better taking all those people and sending them to somebody who is an executive recruiter or who is a career coach or something along those lines, because that won't work. And so sometimes, I think this guy's great. He's a really good friend. I really enjoy him. He introduced me to Josh Turner. Josh Turner's the bomb. Like, there's some really great people that I know because of this gentleman. But, sometimes the referrals are kind of weird and they're kind of wonky. And so I think what's really important is you got to know what you want. You've got to connect with people, determine and ascertain that they think like you think, believe like you believe, and they're on mission with you. And then you have to have a process for training them up to be those great referral partners that you're looking for. So I think what most people think is that it's like, oh, hi, Jake, so nice to meet you. If you ever know anybody who needs some coaching on referrals, you should tell them about me.
Yeah, and the only time that's going to work is if somebody is currently, like, that's top of mind for them. Like, they just got done talking to somebody that needs that. Otherwise, it's like, oh yeah, if I come across somebody, nobody is going to be as eager to build your business as you are eager to build your business. And therefore, you want to be able to continually train, as you talk about it, train up your referral sources so they know what type of referrals to send your way and how best to do it.
Exactly. And the how best to do it, Jake, that you just nailed that. Bam, right there. How best to do it. How does that work for you? It's like your sales process, right? So like, your sales process, how you talk with your clients and you want to onboard them. What if you had people that were trained up in not only in your prospecting process, do you even have one, right? Like that's like, do I have a prospecting process? And then what does my sales process look like? If I can train up 100 friends on this is how I look for prospects and this is what I say to them to get them to the appointment. And then this is what I say to them and how I talk to them when I am enrolling them in my product or service. And I have 100 people that know instinctively how to do that. And I only need 50 clients a year to make me really happy as a solo business owner. Like, how hard is it for those people to help me?
Yeah, and a lot of times we want to make business to be much more complex than it really is. And all of us feel like our business is so unique and so different and so complex. But the reality is, look, marketing needs to bring people to your door. Sales needs to convert those prospects into clients. And then production needs to provide whatever solution that they're seeking, whether it's a service or whether it's a product. That's really business. And when you break down your business into those 3 steps, market, sell, produce, you can say, okay, where does referral fit into this? And when you talk about coming to you and having, tens, hundreds of people out there scouring the streets looking for the right client to bring to your doorstep, and then you're good at sales or you have a team that's good at sales and production is in process, boy, I tell you, that business is going through the roof. You had now the recipe for a lifestyle business, a millionaire business, a successful business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And imagine you have a team, Jake, of people who do business with your perfect ideal client on a regular basis. They just don't solve the problem that you solve, right? So now you have people, they don't even have to leave their office to find you a referral because they're talking to somebody and that person is a no. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to use your product or service. So that person immediately turns around and says, okay, so if this isn't what you need, what is it that you're exactly looking for? Let me ask you some questions. In fact, my sales process has nothing to do with me. When I'm meeting with somebody, I'm building relationship. Tell me what's going on. Who are you? What's your background? What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish here? Right. And so once I really understand what we're trying to accomplish, I simply say, would you mind sharing with me a little bit about why you're not already accomplishing it? What's going on? They tell me all of that. And then I say, listen, I have a couple of opportunities for you. I could introduce you to Jake Carlson. Here's what he does. Here's why he might be a good solution. I can introduce you to Leslie, and here's what she does. And this is why I think that might be a solution. Or you could choose to work with me, and here's what I do. So which one of those seem to be the one you want to do? And, 7 times out of 10, it's me. 3 times out of 10, they want to work with Jake or they want to work with Leslie. And I walk them through your sales process. Well, let me tell you about that. Here's what Jake does. Here's what he has to offer. Does that sound right for you? And they're like, yeah. And you know what I'm going to do? Pick up the phone and be like, Jake, you know what? I have Beth here and she would love to talk to you about getting started here.
And even if you have a situation where you've got 3 out of 10 where they're going somewhere else, you're now leaving them with such a positive vibe, a positive reputation on yourself that they can refer people back to you. Or when the boomerang comes swinging back around, they will come back to you because you've left them not in a sleazy, salesy way, but in a, hey, look, I'm here to support and help you. And you're absolutely right. Once they're in your door, once they're talking with you, you've got a greater than 50% chance that they're going to do business with you. You say 70%, whatever the ratio is, it's greater than 50%. Those who leave your office, it's greater than 50% that they're going to either send business back or come back themselves just because of the experience they had with you and how positive it was.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this really boils down to, again, I'm just going to go all the way back to the idea that I make plenty of money selling stuff for other people that I don't take affiliate marketing commissions for. Because I care about the person who's sitting in front of me, and I care that they have the best solution to the challenges in their lives. And that's what I care most about. And what I get is I get to be the first person. And here's the real truth of it, right? If they're saying no to me at the end of my conversation, they were going to say no to me anyway. All I did was make sure that they left with a next logical step that they feel really good about, because they were going to say no to me anyway. And what we typically do is we do one of two things. They say no, so we immediately go into some follow-up process, right? And our persistence then somehow gets translated into being relentlessness. Like, oh, they're relentless. They just call me and call me and call me, and they never leave me alone, right? We get relentless. Or you know why? You know how you abbreviate follow-up, right?
No.
F/U.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
of course,
know why?
Of course.
Because that's the other thing we do. Oh, you didn't buy FU.
Yeah.
Right? There's no follow-up. We don't do it. We just go out and find new people instead of creating community and creating a relationship with those people. And what we don't realize is that the person that doesn't want us right now, it's not that they don't want us. They either don't need what we have legit, or we're not the right behavioral style, personality, energy, vibe for them, or we didn't do a very good job of making them believers.
Yeah, communicating our value.
Yeah, but if I can communicate my value by saying, well, I don't think I'm for you. What about Jake? Maybe he's the right solution for you. Well, that's, you just made yourself valuable in that person's eyes, and they were saying no to you anyway. So now what I did was I made them happy. I gave you a referral that will probably result in closed business. You think I'm the bum. Now you're out looking for people, having that conversation and saying, well, this is what I do. This is what Virginia does. And here's what John does, right? Like, you're doing the same thing. And we're just making sure people get served.
Yeah, this is a fascinating conversation. I love this. And I want to boil this down just to one question that's been on my mind the entire time. And I think it is encapsulated in our entire conversation. And that is, can you give us one simple strategy that's going to save us time as we go about this referral process? And I think it's taking what you just said and condensing it down.
The one thing you can do is get absolutely clear on what you do in the world in terms of how you believe about your product or service. What is the purpose of your product or service? How does it change the world, and who wants that? And get super clear about that, so that once you're super clear about that, referring becomes much easier because I know what you're looking for. If you're out there saying anybody who, everybody who, people who, that's why you're not getting referrals, because people just don't even know what to look for.
And this is kind of interesting. Before I asked that question, I wrote down what I thought your answer was going to be, and I wrote down clarity. Before I asked the question, that's where I thought you were going. So you and I were really connecting on the same level on this one. I really appreciate this conversation. I look at our time. We're running a little bit short. And before I let you go, I'd love to jump to a section I call Learning from Leaders, which is really taking a personal look at some of the business conversation we've had by asking a few questions. How does that sound?
That's great. Go for it.
All right. So, book currently on your Kindle or bedside table?
Book. Oh, Love is a Killer app.
And what do you think about it?
I think it is a really, really succinct tool for figuring out how to be a better networker. It's basically share your network, share your knowledge, and have compassion. So love people. That's it.
Wonderful. And our next question then goes back to that leadership assessment that you took prior to this call. That is, what is your leadership superpower?
I bet no one can guess. It's confidence.
And I want to take you down just a quick side tangent on this one and just say, okay, you have confidence and you're clearly very energetic and passionate about what you do. What do you recommend for those of us who are not confident when it comes to networking?
My guess is if you're not confident, your focus is on yourself. So stop focusing on yourself. Stop worrying about, all that other stuff about you, and start focusing on other people, helping other people. If you're going to do networking events and you're really, really, really shy, then get yourself positioned at the welcome table, at the registration table, where you're kind of getting people's names and seeing their name tags. And you can have that opportunity to say, oh, like, hi, Jake. Oh, Jake Carlson. Oh, here's your name tag. So what do you do, Jake? Who are you here to meet? And get them introduced to somebody that's going to be of value to them. That's a great first place to start practicing that skill.
And I think that response is worth the price of admission. That is absolutely a great idea. If you don't feel comfortable going, hand to hand, position yourself in a place where people are coming to you, maybe not to you directly, but coming to you for a name tag or for a drink or something like that. And it makes the conversation so much easier. How about sharing a motivational quote, mantra, or philosophy that you live by?
Do or do not. There is no try. Yoda.
Absolutely. A great Star Wars reference for this episode of the podcast. I love it. Absolute Star Wars fan over here myself. The last question before we let you go, what is the book that you most often gift to friends, colleagues, or those that you come in contact with?
Oh, Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine.
And why do you recommend that?
This is interesting. I'll try to give you the really short version because I am a student of Callan Rush and Justin Livingston, and they built their entire magnetize your audience, mesmerize your, like their entire process in large part around that book. And that process changed my life. It's about education-based marketing and positioning yourself as an expert rather than selling your stuff. And I think it informed everything I did. It has made me very successful. And anybody who can learn that process in business in terms of marketing, I think will absolutely just, radically change the direction of their business.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate you diving into that. Before we let you go, do you have any last bit of advice? And then, of course, how can we find out more about you and what you do and connect?
Any last bit of advice is really, truly get your eyes off yourself, get your eyes on other people, and be somebody who is a connector. Make it your business to introduce the people you meet to the people they need to know to make their life amazing. How can you get a hold of me? I'll tell you what, the best way to get a hold of me is to download my free gift. It's at www.masterconnectors.com/follow-up. And you can receive my free white paper. It's the Faithful Follow-Up Guide. It's a 3-step fail-proof system complete with how to create a follow-up system that creates relationship that leads to referrals.
And we're going to link all that up on the show notes so that you don't have to remember that web address. Just go to the show notes, click on that link, get your white paper and your follow-up guide, and really learn how to become a referral machine as well as a master networker. Virginia, it's been a pleasure to spend this time with you. You have such great passion in your voice. We had so much fun. Thank you again for being this week's Modern Leader.
Thanks so much, Jake, and have a great week.
All right, my friends, what a great ride down that conversation on networking and referrals. I absolutely love the conversation. You could probably tell from my voice, from her voice, this is something both of us just live. I mean, it's like we talked about in the episode. Referrals and marketing leads to sales, which leads to you making more money, leads to your business growing. And that's what we care about, right? As modern leaders, we want to make sure that our businesses are serving more people and are growing, are providing the lifestyles that we as individuals want to live. And so I thank Virginia for coming on the show and having this great conversation about referrals. Of course, everything we talked about, including how to get a copy of that free resource that she offered, can be found at jakeacarlson.com/ML78 for episode 78. And until next week, I want to wish you the very best of days, an even better life. Get out there and be a referral source. And of course, stay awesome. Thanks for listening to the Modern Leadership Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at Speaker Jake, on Twitter at Jake A. Carlson, and of course the website, jakeacarlson.com. See you there.